Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Big Story Gazette. This edition slash episode, whatever you want to call it, is basically uh, due to reflection and clarification. And I think that's going to be the general theme: reflection and clarification. Uh, Upon reflection, I realized that there was a part in the Twin Flames video when I was describing Kim. The way it came out as she's a fucking white woman. Well, the moment I said it, if you remember, I threw my hands up to my head and went, wait, wait, wait. And but I didn't clarify as much as that's not how I meant it. It came out, quote, wrong, but I'm gonna explain why it came out that way. So it wasn't quote wrong. It just upon reflection I realized it can be massively interpreted as wrong. So here's the thing. Georgianne is a white woman. My ex-wife, my co-driver who I ran team with until we bought our first truck in the mid 90s and we stopped running team. We ran solo with a spouse rider. And Georgianne was on the truck with me for 11 years. She was my spiritual partner, still is my dear friend. She's a white woman. Okay. I never said that before because I didn't think it was really relevant. She just is who she is. But then after that explosion, and it was an explosion, and I'll explain that too, of Kim and her in her description, I realized that yeah, I need to clarify some things. Yes, Georgianne's a white woman. Georgianne is an absolutely gorgeous white woman. And I'm not politically correct worth a shit, so I'm just going to say some things that you may be aware of, but are have structurally won't say out loud. But I'm going to say them out loud, especially having been in a interracial relationship and interracial marriage, you know, all over the countryside in a big truck in an industry that's predominantly Southern white male dominated, the trucking industry. So, especially long haul, yeah. In local driving, there's local people all over who do local that live all over the country in their local area. But there is a good portion of the long haul cross country drivers that are from the South because the Gold guys grew up on farms in the rural South. They grew up on farms. There's not a lot of industry in their area, so there's not a lot of factories except in the big cities. So they go into trucking to earn a living. So there's a lot of attitudes in the trucking industry, and it just is what it is. And she and I ran across it firsthand. We knew we would because I had been out there before she was. And she knew by hooking up with me and eventually marrying me that she would be in an interracial relationship. And she got a lot of flack from her side of the family. She's from inner city Chicago, from the Polish district on the northwest side of Chicago. So anyway, I wanted to clarify that. There's another structure in consciousness in regards to interracial couples, especially a black man and a white female. And I'm just going to say it like it is because I've seen it. You may have seen it, may have thought it, but never voiced it. But I'll put it out there and speak for the energy. And that structure is that most white women that are with black men are the leftovers from what the white man doesn't want. And we've all seen it. A lot of them are heavy. Uh, White trash is the phrase that's used, the whole 9 yards. Well, in my male vanity, in my black male vanity, in the structure of my black male vanity, and it's just a structure and consciousness, it's not who I am, but it's a structure and consciousness that I grew up with in this same society that we all grew up with. Well, in my black male vanity, I'm extremely proud that Georgianne chose to be with me, and she's absolutely gorgeous. I've always used this. You know how, like, when you say, "Well, what does she look like?" and you can just ambiguously, indiscriminately describe somebody, and that wouldn't mean much to anybody. But when you place them towards a celebrity that we all have viewed through the media, be it television or movies, then you can attach a visual to what you're saying, and the person will understand and get a clearer picture of who you're describing if you could compare them to somebody they may know. Well, I've always used the actress Valerie Bertinelli. I don't know if you know her or you can Google her, look her up, but she's a well-known actress. Not not she's older now. She's been around for a while, but for those that do know who she is, you know what she looks like. She's brunette, really good looking. That's what Georgianne looks like. She looks like Valerie Bertinelli. The squarish kind of face, the whole 9 yards, the brunette hair. Georgianne's she's gorgeous and always has been. And believe me, I've all the time just with every once in a while I just go, wow. Just like wow. I don't think I'm a complete Bowser, but I'm not your matinee idol neither. But she thought I was good looking enough and had enough character to hang out with me. And we met 2 years before we got married. She basically said, if I can put up with your shit for 2 years, I'll marry you. Because I proposed, I fell in love with her, proposed to her, but she was understandably being guarded because of what she was aware that she would be walking into in that type of relationship. But she told me, if I can put up with you for 2 years, I'll marry you. We got married in 1990. We went out on the road. I taught her how to drive a big truck. We went out on the road, and we were married for 13 years. So I knew her. We were together for a total of 15 years, but we were legally husband and wife for 13 years. So I want to clarify that. No, I don't have a problem with white people or white women. And now with white people, no, I don't have a problem with white women. Because I could still have a problem with white people, but there's this super gorgeous hot chick that decides it's white and decides to hang with me, then that would be an exception. Well, here's my story in my relationship with white people. I'm 66 years old. The town I grew up in started school busing. I grew up on the black side of town and went to all black schools from kindergarten till seventh grade. Starting my eighth grade in 1966, they decided to start busing. And I was one of those chosen to be in that program. Not everybody, but basically it was just enough to fill up a bus. And then that bus was split between two different schools on the white side of town. Now, mind you, they didn't bus any white kids to the black side of town, but they bused a busload of, grade school, junior high. I was in junior high, eighth grade. A busload of junior high kids to two separate junior highs on the white side of town. Well, the school that I went to, when we enrolled in that school in 1966, we were the first black students in that school in 14 years. So it was all new to me. That was my first exposure to white people in general. In our neighborhood growing up, we had one mixed family in the neighborhood that I grew up in. So, and they had one daughter, and so she was of mixed race. But that was it. Everybody else in the neighborhood and in the school were either black or Mexican. There were no like white kids in our school. It was totally segregated. Well, in 1966, my going into the eighth grade, I was introduced to segregation and segregated, to integration and integrated schools. Well, that first semester, I was pretty much in a fight every single day. I never got in trouble because, I was told by the school authorities, the counselors and principal and whatever, they pretty much expected it. So I never, I was in a fight pretty much every day, but I never got in trouble. But anyway, what happened after a period of time, people got used to us. And we were first fighting over our skin color, and we didn't start the fights. The fights were being picked on us. Yeah, I'm just tell you what it is, because they're out of our half a busload of kids. Now get this, out of our half of a busload of junior high schoolers, there were only 3 guys. 2 of us were in the 8th grade, and 1 was in the 7th grade, and all the rest were female. All the rest of the black students were female. So, and I remember the 2 guys, and remember their names because this was an important turning point in my life. Wayman Ballinger, and I forget Morris's. Wayman was in the same grade I was, 8th grade, and Morris, I forget his last name, but he was a 7th grader. His name was Morris. And Morris was kind of an effeminate, yada yada, and he totally got bullied. Wayman and I, we fought back, and I'm not a big guy, okay? I was a skinny little kid, but I wasn't a punk, you know? And so it's like, you throw down, you come at me, I'm going to give it, bring a lunch, because it's not going to be a cakewalk. Bring a lunch with you because we're going to do this. And that was just my attitude, especially when I'm in a, quote, hostile territory. Now, mind you, this was my attitude in the 8th grade, totally spiritually sound asleep, not aware of any of this. And I grew up on a black side of town in a black neighborhood. And, we didn't take, somebody come at you, you go back at them. You stand your ground. And that's who I was. And so anyway, for a while we were fighting over just because we were black and we didn't, quote, belong in their school. Then after a while, we were fighting over the white girls were looking at the black guys. They were looking at me and Wayman and started flirting with us. And that took me aback for a minute. But then, yeah, shit, I went with it. If nothing to be but a dig to the white guys that I was always fighting with. So the white girls started looking at us and flirting with us. And remember I said that Kim wore glasses? When I met her in my room, in my kitchen, in my head, in my space, I realized when I was in the 8th grade that I was attracted to women with glasses. There was a girl, her name, this is just, I'm even giving out full names because this was such an impact point in my life. Her name was Elaine Cofrancisco. Obviously, she was of Italian descent, but she was cute as hell. Me and her got along. She wore glasses, and I thought she looked great. I realized then I've always been attracted to women with glasses, which there's a question in my head about Kim. So anyway, then there was a girl named Betsy Ross. Me and her used to hang out, kind of kiss behind the building and shit, little shit like that. So it's like, no, I have always been exposed and early attracted to white women. I do not have a problem with white women, and I don't have a problem with white men, because there were 2 guys. After a period of time of the fighting, now again, I say I'm a small little skinny black kid, after a period of time of the fighting with the white dudes, these 2 white guys just had enough of it. They were all in the 8th grade. 2 of them had enough of it. And there was one day, these 2 guys, and I had befriended, I had classes with all these kids. And I became friends in the classes, but, having fights in gym and fights, between classes and before and after school. But during school, I would have, we'd sit in class and you'd go through class with certain people and you became friends. Well, these 2 guys, and a guy named Steve Lawyer and a guy named Brett Collier. Remember, these people, this was a significant period in my life. a turning point to where that these names, all these years later, they're still there. Well, these two guys were bigger than me. They were bigger than, as big or bigger than the guys that I was always fighting with. And one day, we were getting ready to get in a tussle, and my main antagonist was a guy named Kenny Nicholson. And one day, me and Kenny getting ready to get into it, as always, and Brett and Steve stood beside me, and they just go, "You fight Mike, you fight me." And Kenny backed down, and that was the end of my fighting. I have always had white friends. All my life, I have always had white friends. I don't have a problem with white people, okay? So when that phrase came out, it was the absurdity in my own consciousness that my other half is a white woman. What? That's what blew me away. That's why I said, she's a fucking white woman. Because I know that, that's not what you would expect. You would expect your other half, the other half of who you are internally, your masculine nature and your feminine nature, or vice versa. We would just all, but through our own cultural structures, we would, because all our siblings are the same color. Am I right? Our parents are the same color. So wouldn't you just unconsciously expect your other internal half to be the same color? Well, no, that's what threw me back. That's why that came out that way, because it's just mind blowing. Now, then I've always had this question about my attraction to white women, my attraction to white women with glasses. Did Kim, who has always been there, was that her working through me from the background? I don't know. I don't have that. It could be. Or did I see Kim that way because that's my attraction? That I like women in glasses, and I've never, not that I'm always attracted to white women, but I've never had a problem. Something just fell. I don't know what it was. Excuse me. Let me go check that out because I'm supposed to be in the house alone. Okay, I'm back. Found out what it was. I found it when I stepped on it. I have to make adjustments with the lack of eyesight, which is another interesting thing that I'm going to talk about. And again, that goes within the category of trust your data. I just have to trust because I don't have an answer to what that's all about. Anyway, uh, where was I? Oh, yeah, the question is, did Kim put that in me, or did I see her that way in my own head because of? Oh, I know what I was going to say. I'm not attracted to just white women, and that's who I am. Oh, this is a guy, he just likes white girls. No, I've had 3 wives, I told you. My first wife was black. My second wife was black, and she's the mother of my 2 daughters. And then I met Georgianne while my second wife, Crystal, and I were just separated. And then we later got divorced. When I got divorced from Crystal, I was already living with Georgianne. And I currently cohabitate with 2 Japanese women. We're not sexually intimate. None of us are. I'm not with either one of them. One I've known for 14 years and have been living under the same roof with her for 14 years. We were physically intimate for a period of about 3 years, 3 years into the relationship. It started out as friends and housemates, and then we decided, let's see if we can take a relationship to the next level. And for some reason, it didn't work out. It only lasted 3 years. And then we stopped being physically intimate, but we're still together. We've run a business together, and we just refer to each other as our platonic husband and wife. We don't share a bed. We don't share. This is my room. But they're 2 Japanese women, so it's like, no, I don't have any structures in consciousness about race. You are who you are. And that's pretty much who I've always been for as long as I can remember. I teach people as I meet them, interact with them. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I don't care what color you are. If you prove to me, or I give you the benefit of the doubt straight up. Now, if you prove to me that I can't trust you, then I back up. And just withdraw from interacting with you because it's my choice to interact with you. But if you just deal with me straight up and I deal with you straight up, I don't care what color you are, we will get along just fine. That's who I am and always have been. So I think I clarified that, I hope. Well, yeah, I know I did. So anyway, I think there was one other thing I wanted to clarify, but I don't remember. So I guess it wasn't that big a deal. Oh, yeah. I remember now. It was in the last video that I did on synchronicities when I was talking about Hollywood and why I like movies in Hollywood. Well, there's certain, I told you, certain genres. Basically, there's only two genres that I really watch. Be science fiction and action and adventure. Because I'm a guy. I grew up a guy, you know. Loving your wholeness. Hilarious has a phrase. And Hilarious always speaks from the big story. This is one of his phrases. Loving your wholeness. Love all of you. Don't beat up on any part of you. No part of you is less than any other part of you. And just as I was saying that, you notice the pause? Because I just remembered another one. And this is one of his bombshells that consider the possibility that everything you think is wrong about you is exactly right about you. I'll say it one more time because that threw me for a loop when I first heard it. Consider the possibility that everything you think is wrong about you is exactly right about you. Now, couple that with loving your wholeness, and that's part of the inner work. You know how you always hear about people saying you got to do the inner work, your shadow self, and all of that? That's it. Those are two foundational parts of the shadow work. Accepting all of you, loving your wholeness. Consider the possibility that everything you beat yourself up about is exactly how you're supposed to be, because you and larger self set this up. And larger self didn't help you set it up and then take a hike and went on vacation. Larger self is with you all the time and has your best interest in mind all the time. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever you think, larger self is there with you and knows more about you than you do. I commented just today. I was watching a video, and then I was reading the comments, and this one person said, "Oh, if you do come to this channel, Canadian Deplorable, that was his YouTube handle, Canadian Deplorable. He was saying that he understands that there's certain things we have to do to raise our vibration, and that he's been doing that, but now that he's stuck, and I don't know if I'm just assuming that it's a male, he, so I'm using the pronoun he. But Canadian Deplorable is saying he understands that there's certain things that we have to do to raise our vibration, and he's been doing them, but that he's basically stuck. He doesn't understand why he's stuck. He doesn't know what it means. And so my comment was, consider the possibility that you're not stuck, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be in this now time. And then for the first time ever, I suggested maybe check out my channel, and I have some more expansive perspectives that I do share that more in more depth than what that time and space allowed in the comment section of a video. So, Canadian Deplorable, if you do show up, welcome. You're so dearly welcome. And yes, I love you, and hope some of this works for you. That's loving your wholeness is remembering that you're not alone. We're not doing this by ourselves. See, this we think we are because we think we're us. We think this is all we are. We have been culturalized and trained to think that we're our ground crew. We're our emotions, we're our mental body, and we're our physical body. That's what we've all of us have been brought up to believe. Because we all grew up in the same society, the same civilization. And the truth has been kept from all of us. But you knew this when you set this up. You're not a victim. None of us were victims. We knew. That's why I use the phrase activating light codes in our DNA. When we set this up, us as our higher self, when we put the veils on our consciousness and inserted this little aspect of our multidimensional self into the third dimensional linear timeline and this dimension, we knew what we were doing. We set into the DNA little light codes that at a certain time would go off. Like I said, mine were set to go off at the harmonic convergence, which according to Hilarious was the densest point, was how did he phrase it? The furthest point of density from the source that you can get. So we started at source and we dropped out of down through the dimensions from source, and in 1988 planet Earth hit the maximum point of density, and that was the harmonic convergence. And then from that point forward, we've been ascending. We were descending, and in 1988, from that point forward, a lot of people say 2012. Well, no, it's not. The maximum point of density was 1988. And from that point forward, we've been ascending. Now, the dim guys are aware of this also, the same data. They're aware of it too. So they've been fighting tooth and nail to keep us from that. But if you'll notice, in 2012, right about that time, from 2008 to 2012, a whole bunch of you guys started waking up. A whole bunch of light codes started being activated. And the world has changed. There is an awakening. There is a quickening. The whole world is waking up. I just volunteered to do it a little bit earlier. Me and a whole bunch of others. I'm not special. When I first started waking up, I ran across a figure from Drumville Melchizedek. He's somebody to follow. He does the Flower of Life. In his workshop in the mid-90s when we took it, one of the phrases that he gave was, or one of the figures he gave was, at that particular point, there were roughly, I think, like 100 million of us on the planet. 100 million light workers on the planet. Out of that were awake, whose light codes have been activated. Well, that was, out of like 7 billion people. But since then, things have really been popping. That was 30 years ago. Okay, so that figure has grown, and I personally have seen it accelerate every year. So imagine how ecstatic I am to watch what's going on right now with Donald Trump. He's just upsetting the apple cart, and that's it. Here's a little key. Trump. Have you ever played bridge or there's a lot of Trump is the Trump card. How clear can that be? He's the Trump card that's trumping everything. The whole establishment, the whole old way that it is. Trump is the catalyst. He's the Trump card. It was perfect. He was played on the table. You play your trump card at a certain time to just go, because the trump card can be anything. In a card game that uses a trump card, the trump card can be whatever you want it to be. And it just rattles, it can outdo every other card. So the trump card is that extra card that you can't touch. It will upset the apple cart. It will upset the program. And that's exactly what's going on in this thing, where now Q, if you follow Q, is talking about trust the plan. Well, you always hear me talk about the divine plan. Now, I'm not saying that the plan that Q's talking about is the quote divine plan, but consider the possibility that it is in part of the divine plan, because there is an alliance. We are not alone in the universe. We are not alone on this planet. We are not alone internally, spiritually, individually. It is absolutely not what you think it is. One of the things when I first started waking up, and I'm going to cut this shortly, one of the first things when I started waking up was I realized, and I'm going to pass this on to you guys, you got to unlearn everything you ever learned. You literally have to unlearn everything you learn. Everything you think you know is wrong. You have to relearn it all, because the whole thing's been a scam. It's a lie. It started from that foundational lie of being separate from spirit. And the whole entire civilization is built upon that foundational lie that you're separate from spirit. So you have to unlearn everything you ever learned. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I love you. Blessings on your journey.